one, if not the most traumatic thing I've been through thus far, which is the time my daughter's father stabbed me, then my mom, and then ultimately tried to end his own life afterwards. A few days after I gave birth to our daughter, when I was 18, right out of high school. Basically, I do want to give you background on our relationship so you can kind of see how it all added up to that moment, in case anybody else is going through a similar situation or wants to know what some red flags are for mental illness and abusive relationships, what to do, what not to do type things. We were together for a while, and eventually, as we've grown closer and the time started to pass, we ended up living with each other here and there. He had his own issues in his own world. His parents didn't really want him or didn't want to take care of him per se, and I believe his uncles adopted him, or his uncle adopted him, let him live there, but it wasn't the best place for him to be. He grew up in and out of group homes and the system, people who really didn't want him. He just always felt abandoned, and he had a lot of built up anger in regards to that. So I feel like once he started becoming a man and he was going to be cut off of any type of assistance, meaning housing, help in any way, because once you turn 18, the state, they don't help you as much as they do when you're a minor. So that didn't help. Like, he was just becoming an adult super fast, and he never really had anybody to take his hand and help him really. So you put that on top of me getting pregnant and also being young myself and not having the best family system at home, it's going to cause for a lot of chaos. So yeah, it was just a recipe for disaster. Not that either of us are bad people. I don't think he's a bad guy. I just think he wasn't given the best of chances to make the best life for himself. Like, he was dealt pretty shitty cards, which isn't an excuse for any of his actions, but you do have to understand, not everybody grows up knowing right from wrong, being taught right from wrong, being told what morals are, what values are. Not everybody grows up in a family. Not everybody knows what love is, you know? Which is crazy to say. You think it would come natural to all of us, but as you're a kid and a baby, whatever you experience growing up, that's what you're going to manifest in your, you know, teenage years up to adulthood, until you're conscious enough to change your ways and realize, okay, this isn't right. I can't be doing that. I need to break the generational curse here and be different. So with that said, that takes us up, we'll say, to the middle of my pregnancy. Everything was fine at the beginning. I had a hard time telling my family that I was pregnant because, first of all, he was black, and it's not that my family is racist, but at the time they felt like, you know, black should be with black, white should be with white. Makes no sense to me, but that's what it was. Things aren't like they were now almost 10 years ago. That was still a touchy subject. So coming out that I was pregnant with a black man, that wasn't as acceptable as it is now. And people might say, you might not even know people are racist, but behind closed doors, a lot of people feel like it's wrong. And I really don't like it, but that's the way the world is. So if you've never seen racism, date a black man or woman, have a baby, and see how people react to you. Because that was the first time I've experienced racism and how real it was. I remember this one time when I was pregnant, we were walking by the river, and it was just me and him. We were walking, weren't doing nothing. This guy comes out of his house and he aims a gun at us, and he's like, y'all need to get out of here, take your N-word out of here before I kill you guys. I will shoot you. His gun was loaded, it was cocked back, and he wasn't playing games. So I started mouthing off like, are you serious? How dare you talk to him like that? He's a human being, yada yada yada. So her dad, my daughter's dad, ends up being like, just get in the car, just stop. And so we got in the car, we left, I called the cops. First of all, the cops took hours to come. They could have cared less, but the dude ended up being arrested, and he would have shot one of us for sure. When they had got the gun, they said there was a bullet in the chamber, it was cocked, it was loaded, he was ready to go, and he said he was gonna shoot us. So he admitted everything. He ended up serving time for that. But I'm just saying, like, dealing with racism, and I'm not even black. So for me to experience the things I did, just being with somebody who is black or having a mixed child, that's an added pressure on top of just having a child or being in a relationship. Like, just so much negativity made a recipe for chaos. You know, us both growing up in broken homes and being young and coming from different worlds, combining all that, we didn't have the emotional intelligence and communication to push through that, or the best adult supervision to guide us the appropriate way for a positive outcome. So we go on and on for a couple months. He starts, you know, getting stressed, you know, hasn't bought anything for the baby. He's kind of going back and forth, like he doesn't know if he wants to be with me. I stopped seeing him so much. He started doing some foul shit to me. Things started to get physical. He started stealing from me. Stopped coming over. He started threatening me. He would get into it with my mom, and all I remember is me trying to be the peacemaker always and being emotional. I'm a very sensitive girl, strong but sensitive when it comes to people I love. So I just remember being an emotional wreck all the time because I was pregnant, which makes you emotional, but also being a sensitive person doesn't really help. So I definitely let him walk all over me more than I should have. But at the time, I was so young, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what knowing your worth was. Back then, we don't have as much knowledge as we did now. The internet, Facebook, all that was just starting. Now you can go online, look up spirituality. People make TikToks on self-love, self-care. None of that was talked about almost 10 years ago. That was taboo to talk about. So it was just a lack of knowledge for me. And I also grew up with a dad who had anger issues, bipolar, not really affectionate, just very mean. Just had a lot of anger inside himself that had nothing to do with me but his own life. So the signs I saw in my daughter's dad, we're gonna call him D. The signs that I saw in D resembled things I saw in my dad, but because I had already been through some forms of abuse, I guess you could say, it was normal to me for a man to be disrespectful to me and treat me certain ways. The first boyfriend I had in high school, drug dealer, just no good, didn't care about shit but himself. He kind of ended up being abusive, abused every one of his girlfriends afterwards. He slapped me in the face in front of all his friends one day. So that's where my abusive relationship started. And then eventually, like in a relationship or two later, when I got with D, when I saw those signs again, once again, it was normal to me. I didn't see anything wrong with it per se, because I was used to being treated like that. Nobody had told me, like, hey, this is not okay. So just a mess. So when I told my mom, she wanted me to get an abortion. Didn't want me to stay with her, so I ended up staying with my dad's ex-girlfriend, which is my younger brother's mom. That didn't really work out, I think, because it wasn't really her responsibility to raise me anymore. My dad and her have been broken up for years. She was just trying to do the right thing, I guess you could say. We ended up getting into it when I told her I was pregnant. I don't really remember the specifics, and I don't want to make things up that's not even true. So I don't really know why that didn't work out. It just didn't. We were just going back and forth a lot. It just wasn't the right fit. So I ended up moving back in with my mom. My mom is an alcoholic at the time, and she ends up going to rehab. So now I'm at an apartment all alone, and my camera's gonna die. And okay, so I end up living at her apartment alone. D, my daughter's dad, ends up coming and going all the time. I'm isolated. All I do is stay in my mom's room for months. Like, I kid you not, I did not leave the house. I may have walked to the Burger King once or twice every day or something to get something to eat. I wasn't going to the grocery store. I didn't have no money. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a job. Like, there was nothing I could do. Literally, I was in such a stuck position and no help anywhere. I started reaching out to churches and places to help me. It was that bad. So he's coming and going, scaring me, threatening me about things like, I don't know, he hates my family and me and all this for happening. So things just got heated. He stopped coming around a while. So I was literally in that room every day, all day. I would just lay in bed. I was so depressed. It felt like solitary confinement. And I got so used to doing that. I got so fat just from being depressed. And it was so bad. I was so sad. I was so scared. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I felt like I was on my own. The worst thing I've probably ever gone through. So eventually my mom ends up coming back from rehab. I get her to move because the apartment we were living in wasn't the best, and it was only a 1-bedroom. So we ended up moving to an apartment. I take Dee with me, and we end up living there with her. She's like, okay, we're gonna get things together now because the baby's almost due. It's winter. It's like right before Christmas, New Year's Eve. So she's like, we're gonna get a new apartment. We're all gonna live together. I'll take your boyfriend to and from work. My mom said this. She's like, I'll take him to work every day. I'll pick him up. And I got on public assistance to help me, you know, get formula and things like that, and just really prepare for this child. So things are coming together. And then I go into, no, this is a part I need to tell you. Okay, so everything's fine for a couple months. Let's say we're in January now, and this was a red flag. I don't remember what we got in a fight about, but I just remember laying on the bed and he's choking me, so angry. I don't know. So a couple weeks later, I go into labor. I was in labor for 3 days. Finally ended up going to the hospital, and D comes with me, wouldn't let my mom in the room. We weren't very close like that at the time, so I really just wanted him in there. He wasn't the best in there. He walked me around once, and then he was in and out of the room doing God knows what. So I ended up, at the end of the night, I was finally like, I need an epidural because I'm in this room by myself. I have nobody by my side. Like, I cannot take this pain anymore. So I ended up getting an epidural, finally had the baby. Stayed in the hospital for a few days, got home. The hospital had sent a nurse out because I was breastfeeding after we got home, and that was fine. The baby was fine. Since she was a mixed baby, she had a Mongolian spot on her back, so they needed to note that. My camera just died, so now I'm on my iPhone, forgive me. So, like I was saying, she had a Mongolian spot on her back, which thank God a nurse had came out and noted that. That's going to be important later. So nurse comes out, baby's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine for a few days. After I ended up inviting his aunt over to see the baby because it was his favorite aunt, he said. So I invited her over later that evening so she'd be there when he got done work. I thought it'd be nice that, you know, he'd have, since my mom was there enjoying the baby, my grandmom had came, I thought it'd be nice to have, you know, his family over. So my mom went to pick him up from work and she brought him home. His aunt was there. I cooked him dinner. I gave him the rest of my dinner. Everything was fine. So later that evening, we're in my bedroom, and my mom and her boyfriend at the time wanted to go to the bar. So they come in the room. The boyfriend asked to see the baby. Hasn't met the baby yet. D, my daughter's dad, does not like my mom's boyfriend because he doesn't like anybody. You know, he barely liked me. Because he barely liked himself. So, yeah. He just didn't really like people. And he was always leery about people. He was always questioning people's motives, which we'll also come back to why that's significant. Somebody who's very untrustworthy, like more than usual, not just a little, I don't trust you, don't cheat on me, I hope you don't leave me. No, like times that by a million, like untrusting. Like he thought he was out to get him half the time, my mom was, I was, and I could never make sense of it. So he got mad because I let my mom's boyfriend see the baby, and that's what started the rest of the night. So, sees the baby. My mom says, okay, we're going to the bar. See ya. They leave. My daughter's dad, mad. I'm sitting on the bed on my computer. My friend Clarissa at the time, she texts me, hey, congratulations on the baby. Us four should hang out. Like her boyfriend, me, and D. We should smoke. It's like, I'm breastfeeding. I can't smoke right now. I can't smoke yet because I used to smoke back in the day. I was like, I can't smoke, but my man will. And it'll be fun. It'll give us a little break eventually. He saw that and he was like, you telling people I smoke? What? You making people think I'm a POS? You know what I mean? You know what POS stands for, right? So he was mad. He was like, he took it as